guys. How are you? Sitting in front of you. Oh gosh, this is fine. Oh yeah. Okay, folks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Layli Khalafa, and I am a working parent. My children are Eric, who just completed kindergarten, and Emma, who is 2 and still has several years to go here at the Y. The importance of quality, reliable childcare cannot be overstated for our family. Having young children and a child with special needs, the availability of quality childcare is what enables us to work, both to provide for our family and to keep essential functions in our state open and running. There are parts of the workforce in our state that did not stop for a single day, even during the worst weeks of this COVID-19 crisis. We were only able to report to work and continue to perform our duties because we had reliable childcare available. During the height of the pandemic, my husband was furloughed along with thousands of his co-workers. For a few weeks, he stayed home and took care of our children. When he received a job offer, he was only able to accept it and go back to work because childcare was available. If we had not had access to childcare, our family would have been faced with some tough choices. Either our main breadwinner would have had to stay home on unemployment to take care of our children, or I would have had to give up my job serving my community. However, thanks to the state's decision to allow childcare providers to operate with appropriate safety measures, and thanks to the truly selfless work and dedication of our childcare providers and educators, our family did not have to choose between doing our duty and maintaining our financial stability. That is a choice no family should have to make. We are fortunate enough to be able to entrust our children to the excellent care of these dedicated professionals. We value their work and appreciate their positive and lasting impact on our children. Now it is with great pleasure that I introduce the Governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy.
Thank you very much. Well done. Thank you. Layli, more on you in a minute, as they say, if that's okay. I'm honored to be here today. I want to thank Metuchen for hosting us so graciously. I particularly want to thank them for the weather, which is perfect. It's always like that in Metuchen and Middlesex County. So, before we get to the topic of the day, I cleared this with my fellow speakers. I want to talk about two things that are unrelated but are important, which are COVID update as well as unemployment. So, just on the COVID front, 372 additional positive cases, or tests rather, that brings our cumulative statewide total to 190,971. The positivity rate and the rate of transmission are both in very good shape, which is a good thing, and they continue to be, and that will allow us, I hope, sooner than later to take some more steps. So the positivity rate, this is for tests that were taken on Monday, is 1.52%. So plus or minus 98.5% of the people who got tested on Monday tested negative, and that's a good thing. And the rate of transmission is now down to 0.77. So you may recall that was above 1 for, first of all, it was 5.31 in March, but it was above 1 not just a few weeks ago, and it stayed there for a while, so that's a good thing. 436 folks in the hospital as of last night. 83 of them were in intensive care, and 30 were on ventilators. I don't have the breakdown of the 436, but if you've been following us, it's usually about half and half confirmed COVID, as well as persons under investigation awaiting a test result to come back. And I have no reason to believe it isn't like that. Sadly, we must report another 9 fatalities, so Keep them in your prayers, for a total now of confirmed fatalities of 14,150. Our thoughts remain with each and every one of these families. We've said this many times, but we know that we're not done fighting this virus. To that end, yesterday I signed an executive order extending the public health emergency, which under the terms of the statute would have expired this weekend if it were not renewed. We've extended that sort of as we go. It's an every 30-day reality. Again, by extending it, it means that we'll be able to utilize necessary resources to combat COVID-19 while continuing to responsibly open many sectors of our economy. Second, off topic again, forgive me, the economic crisis that has come from the pandemic is unlike any we've ever had to deal with before, and that means our unemployment numbers continue to be also jaw-dropping. So as of yesterday, every Thursday, by the way, the U.S. Department of Labor and each of the American states and territories always release their data. Yesterday, more than, as of yesterday, so over the past 5 months cumulatively, over 1.5 million New Jersey workers have filed claims for unemployment. This week compared to last week, there were 5,000 fewer claims, so that's a modest step in the right direction. So far, the department has cleared $14.4 billion to these workers and families. That's a combination of state and federal funds. And while we know that some claims remain unresolved, by the way, they're overwhelmingly, and this has been the case now for the past probably 3 to 4 months, they're overwhelmingly related to very specific individual particular issues with the person's situation. For instance, a cross-state matter is one that comes up. You live in New Jersey, you work in New York, etc. Having said that, 96% of everybody who's been deemed monetarily eligible have received at least one payment, and I know that Commissioner Rob Acero-Angelo and his team will continue their hard work to make sure that 96 becomes 100 sooner than later of anybody who is eligible, monetarily eligible to receive that. So thank you for letting me get those two important points out of the way. And again, good morning, everyone. The playgrounds, I know it's a little quiet today, but Laylee, you represent literally tens of thousands of working moms and dads, as you pointed out, who are trying to find a solution to the issue of childcare in these unprecedented times. So thank you so much for the introduction and for taking the time to be with us this morning, and most importantly, for being a great leader. I also want to recognize we've got a great group of folks with us. We have the Commissioner of the Department of Human Services, Carol Johnson, who we're going to hear from shortly. We have to her side the Commissioner of the Department of Children and Families, Commissioner Christine Norbert Beyer. Christine, great to have you. And sadly, and this is something that happened a week ago today, one of Christine's colleagues, Vernetta McCoy, innocently sitting on her front porch in Trenton, was shot, and she passed the next day. So Christine, to you and your colleagues, and to Vernetta's family, I spoke to her mom on that Saturday when she was still clinging to life. It's just an extraordinary tragedy, so hang in there to you and the team. We also have Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Education, Carrie Booker, is with us. Carrie was in the front office working with me for a year and a half or so and has focused on early childhood matters at DOE. So great to have you with us, Carrie. And if that weren't enough, we're in the Rockin' 18th Legislative District. And so we've got two extraordinary members of the Assembly, Assemblywoman Nancy Pinkin and Assemblyman Rob Karabinchak. And it's an honor to have each of you here, and thank you for welcoming us. I know Mayor Jonathan Bush is on a well-deserved vacation with his family, so I want to just give him and the council here in Metuchen a shout out. This is an iconic community in one of the most important counties in our state. I also had the honor a few minutes ago to meet Rose Cushing, who was the president and CEO of the YMCA of Metuchen across the street and founded the Edgar Learning Center. So Rose, great to have you with us. And Angelique Nebi is here as well, who runs the childcare. She's the director of the childcare here at the Edgar Early Learning Center. And to each and every one of you, all of you, thank you for being here this morning, and thank you for advocating so strongly on behalf of New Jersey's working families. So for the past 6 months, we've had all we've all had more than enough to worry about. Both the health, as I mentioned a minute ago, and the economic crisis set off by COVID-19 have managed to touch literally, I think, every part of our lives and every life in this state. And while I could not be prouder of the way New Jerseyans have taken seriously their role in slowing the spread of COVID-19, as well as our ability to slowly but surely safely reopen sectors of our economy, having said that, many questions have remained about how we're going to keep our children safe as parents return to work and the new school year begins. So since March, and this is a staggering number, nearly half of New Jersey's 4,000 licensed child care centers have remained closed, nearly 4,000, employing nearly 5% of the female workforce in this state and allowing tens of thousands of parents the ability to go to work. The child care industry is a cornerstone part of our state's economy. And as many schools continue distance learning into at least the beginning of the fall, there will be new and increased need for access to child care during school hours. This increase in need and decrease in availability, that combination has caused tens of thousands of working parents real concern about affordability, making sure their kids are safe throughout the day. And Layli, your comments resonated deeply with all of us. As many families have discovered these past few months, childcare has become a necessary part of our state's economic infrastructure, and it will be critically important to our economic recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. So to address this problem and support New Jersey's families, and I previewed this notion in broad terms on Tuesday at our budget address, I am proud to announce the creation of the $250 million COVID Child Care Initiative, which will be run through the Department of Human Services by Carol and her team. These dollars are part of New Jersey's allocation of the federal coronavirus relief fund. So it's $250 million, and it comes in 4 different buckets. Number 1, it will provide restart grant funds for child care providers who will have reopened by October 1st. This will help obviously keep more child care centers open and increase the availability of child care options for parents. That's number 1. That's a total of $50 million. Secondly, child care providers will receive a subsidy grant on top of that of $75 per subsidy eligible child per month from September to December. So that's to help address the ongoing increased costs they face from the pandemic. That bucket is a total of $30 million. Thirdly, it will provide full-time subsidies for working families making less than 200% of the federal poverty level who are subsidy eligible and require additional child care for remote learning during the school day due to COVID-19. As many schools operate on a partial or full-time online platform, this funding will provide much needed support. That's the third bucket. That's $20 million. And by the way, I get asked this question all the time. You talk about 200% of the federal poverty level, or yesterday we talked about the past few days about the baby bonds, which is 500%. We do that because the federal poverty level was last established in 1966. I believe it's 1966. That's when the federal poverty level was established, which means it is completely out of date for the reality that a lot of families in our country and in our state face every day. So that third bucket is $20 million. And the fourth bucket, which is the biggest, it establishes tuition assistance for those families who are not eligible for that subsidy, but who earn up to $75,000 a year and need supervision for their school-age children during the school day. And that bucket is $150 million, to give you an idea how many more families you bring into the reality. And that's only up to $75,000 of income per year. So this broad initiative has been designed to address the issue of child care from multiple directions. And the 2 big ones are child care providers need assistance to remain open, and secondly, our families need assistance to afford new and increasing expenses. By helping providers and at the same time by helping working families, we are one step closer to our recovery from this crisis and getting our economy back on track. But of course, by the way, this is about money, but at the same time, it's about much more than just money. It's also about making sure our parents have peace of mind that their children are safe during the day. And I've said it many times, we are in an unprecedented times, and we only get through this crisis together. So with that, I'm going to bring up a couple of outstanding leaders in our cabinet and in our state. Please help me welcome the Commissioner of the Department of Human Services. First up to bat, Carol Johnson. Carol?
So good morning, everyone. If I could take 1 minute to speak off topic, I just want to thank the governor for yesterday renewing the public health emergency. That allows us to access additional federal resources, and the direct impact of that is that yesterday we got approval for additional SNAP resources for New Jersey families for September, thanks to the governor's declaration. So thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. Thank you to the governor, Assemblyman Karabanchak and Assemblywoman Pinkin, who are such leaders for New Jersey's families. It is really wonderful to be here at the Egger Early Learning Center. We thank Lily for speaking on the message on behalf of parents. And we thank Center Director Angelique Namby for welcoming us and for being a safe haven for our children during this really challenging time. I also want to thank Cindy Shields, who's the Senior Child Director for the YMCA of Metuchen, Edison, Woodbridge, and South Amboy, of which the Egger Center is a part, for welcoming us here today. And to the Reformed Church of Metuchen, who helps support this work and does so much for children and families. Yesterday, I had the chance to read Cindy's thoughtful welcome back letter to parents, in which she made clear how hard Child Care Center staff with the Y have been working to be ready to support parents as schools reopen. We share her tremendous gratitude to the child care employees and caregivers across our state whose dedication and compassion make child care feel like an extension of home. Cindy's letter began by talking about the usual back-to-school routines, but quickly noted, no doubt that this September will look a little different, and it will. In ways big and small, New Jersey's children and families have absorbed so many changes during the course of the pandemic. With the governor's leadership today, we're hoping to offer them a bit of relief. The unprecedented health crisis brought on by COVID-19 has also brought unimaginable financial challenges. And as schools work through what it'll take for them to reopen, families are in a difficult spot. Parents need to work. Parents who are essential workers need to be at work. Parents who can work from home need to be on calls and in virtual meetings and meet that critical deadline. And parents who live with their children in multi-generational households need to find the space to do their work and help their children and keep their COVID vulnerable older relatives safe. At the same time, kids need to be home too if school's still working on reopening. And no matter how superhuman parents are, it's just incredibly challenging, if not impossible, to work from home and be at your essential job in a grocery store or a hospital or in a child care center and teach your kids during the day. There are many, many heartbreaking things that have happened during this pandemic, from lives lost to jobs lost. But one of the added heartbreaking residual effects of the pandemic is the increasing talk about women leaving the workforce because of the impossible burden of working from home and remote learning. It would be a sad irony to have the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, with all of its empowerment and opportunity, marked by women feeling like they had so few choices. So today we take an important step to try to help families weather this really challenging time. As the governor mentioned, we're announcing a $250 million COVID child care initiative, which will provide new support to children and families with resources from the Federal Coronavirus Relief Fund. We've long known that quality childcare is essential to child development and to economic development, and today's announcement makes clear that in the face of a pandemic, childcare is also essential to schools reopening. With this plan, we in the Department of Human Services will take 4 steps, and I apologize, these are slightly out in a different order than the governor talked about them, so I'm happy to crosswalk them. First, we'll now provide childcare state subsidies for children during the school day for school-age children 5 to 13 years old through the end of the school year. Today, we provide those subsidies to families with incomes up to 200% of the federal poverty level, which is roughly, for a family of 3, about $43,400. We provide those subsidies before and after care, but children are in school during the day, so we don't provide subsidies during the school day. We will change that now and provide those subsidies during school hours. Second, we'll now create, at the governor's direction, the $150 million program to provide child care assistance to New Jersey families who are not otherwise eligible for our subsidy program, but who are in need of either full or part-time child care due to their child's remote learning schedule. This assistance will be available through the end of the calendar year for families with school-age children 5 to 13 years old with annual incomes below $75,000 through an application process. We'll fund the family-selected licensed child care center or registered family child care provider at the state subsidy rate for school-age children based on the hours of care needed. Some children will need full days per week, some will need a few days, some will need partial days. It'll all depend on the family and the school's schedule. Our applications will open in early September, and when the process opens, families will be able to submit applications, and then we'll make awards to participants who meet the eligibility criteria until the funds are exhausted. Third, we're focused on helping child care centers with reopening and sustainability, particularly child care centers that make it a priority to serve children receiving the state child care subsidy. So we'll boost payments to child care providers with a supplemental payment equal to $75 per child per month to a center serving subsidy-eligible children, including infants, toddlers, and school-age children, again, through the end of the calendar year. Finally, to help all licensed child care centers in New Jersey and all registered family child care providers meet the increasing costs of remaining open and reopening, we will provide providers who are open or intend to open by October 1st with stabilization grants to manage the added operational costs due to COVID-19 health and safety guidelines. These funds will be available to the nearly 6,000 child care providers, 4,000 of which are child care centers, roughly 2,000 of which are family child care providers, who are facing increased COVID-related costs with things like the need to purchase PPE and other supplies and materials, cleaning and sanitation supplies, and other operational needs related to COVID-19. These awards will vary based on the program census size and range from about $2,500 to $17,000 per provider. This new initiative builds on our ongoing commitment to making childcare more affordable and accessible in our state. Since the start of the pandemic, Human Services has taken several steps to support childcare, including providing more than $125 million through 2 key actions. Early in the pandemic, the governor directed us to create an emergency child care program for essential workers at the peak of the crisis, which we were able, with our partners in the Department of Children and Families, to stand up quickly to help ensure essential workers had access to affordable child care that we subsidized through state dollars, and providing our state subsidy to child care centers based on their prior enrollment to help them maintain their staffing and rent costs and other needs throughout the summer. We've also been delivering personal protective equipment to emergency child care centers and family child care centers as it becomes available. And all of this is really representative of the Murphy administration's long-standing commitment to child care. Since the start of our administration, we've been making new investments in child care and working hard to address affordability and quality in child care across our state. And so we remain committed to helping New Jersey families navigating the health and economic challenges resulting from the unprecedented effects of COVID-19. Thank you.
So I have three things to say, other than Carol is an extraordinary leader. And I've said this before publicly. She understands how Washington works as deeply as she understands how New Jersey works. And that is a huge asset for us. That's number one. So thank you for today and for your leadership always. Secondly, there's no truth to the rumor that Christine slipped me a 20 to have the mulcher do his work while you were speaking and get it out of the way before Christine spoke. And thirdly, most importantly, anybody who doubts Rose's power in this community, did anyone notice she went out she talked to the mulching crew, and they instantly stopped their work. So, Rose, you showed, as you always do, how big a deal you are. And to them, I apologize in absentia. I hope they get to finish their work later today. So with that, this, like a lot of things, something like this takes a village, right? So we need the directors, we need the blessing of the Y, we need our extraordinary members in the legislature, so many other folks, we need moms and dads. But we also need more than one branch of government. And that's the case with this, as it is the case with so many other initiatives we pursue, almost invariably at every step of the way with our legislative colleagues. So in that spirit, please help me welcome another extraordinary leader, the Commissioner of the Department of Children and Families, Christine Norbert Beyer.
Thank you, Governor. I was thinking when the mulching started that that's what it's like to be a parent, or that you have to track and adjust and you have to constantly change and figure out how you're going to get through the next thing. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you to Governor Murphy, our legislative colleagues, Commissioner Johnson, and all of the fellow parents who are here and who are also challenged to find a balance between personal and professional obligations as we head into another school year. At the outset, I want to say that I sympathize with families that are struggling to find adequate and affordable childcare as we prepare for hybrid or remote learning going into the 2020-2021 academic year. I hear firsthand from my own family members, my nieces and nephews, who are parents of toddlers, preschool, and school-age children, about their struggles to obtain quality child care that they can afford so that they can continue to work and support their families. And they're calling me because they think I have an inside track looking for advice and asking direction. But I know myself as a mother of teenagers that I'm fortunate in that my kids are pretty self-sufficient, depending on the day of the week. But even still, I find myself stressing out about being able to be available to them during the day while also fulfilling my duties as Commissioner of the Department of Children and Families. So for parents of younger children, and especially for parents working in a job where they don't have the ability to work from home, the stress and anxiety that they're under and the challenges that they face make it all just simply untenable. The pandemic has reinforced what we already know, that access to quality childcare is vital to working parents and critical for a thriving economy. But the pandemic has also brought about with it challenges to maintain an adequate level of childcare in the Garden State. The necessary practice of social distancing limits our childcare capacity, even as it helps to ensure a safe, healthy experience for the children. And in the current economic climate, some of New Jersey's licensed centers were unfortunately not able to reopen once the order was lifted in New Jersey back in July. And I think, the governor referenced that of our 4,000, about 4,100 licensed centers, only about half of them are open today. I am happy to report that we expect on or before September 1st, we'll have another 1,800 back open and operational within the state. In order to ensure that families are supported by a robust and safe network of licensed child care centers and family child care providers, Governor Murphy's revised fiscal year 21 budget proposal allocates the $250 million in coronavirus relief funds that both the governor and Commissioner Johnson spoke about. And Commissioner Johnson and I, our departments with the Department of Education and others, are working collaboratively across state government to ensure that adequate, accessible, and affordable child care is within reach for every New Jersey family that needs it. At DCF, we'll continue to look at best practices from the National CDC and our own Department of Health to make sure that it's safe, an enriching experience for the children enrolled and staff working in these child care centers. And we're exploring creative ways to expand our child care capacity, including looking to develop partnerships between licensed centers and other community facilities like schools, recreation centers, and houses of worship. So on behalf of the New Jersey's families, I want to thank the governor for his commitment to a healthy and strong network of child care providers, ready to help families find the balance that they so richly deserve between the professional and the personal. And I look forward to working with my colleagues across state government to help implement this vision and these dollars. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, Carol, and thank you, Lily, for introducing us so graciously and for everything you're doing. We'll take a few questions. I'm sure they'll all be on topic. Anybody got anything? Brent?
So you mentioned indoor dining the other day about probably before September. Are you going to be looking at what happens with gyms to help make the decision, or do you have, what is your thinking on indoor dining going forward? I always talk about this.
We're almost there. That's what I'll say. And to some extent, we do, as we have from the beginning, we don't always take steps that are completely singular, but we have tried to do this deliberately in increments. Methodically, I guess is another way to put it. So we do get some sense, but the gyms aren't going to open until Tuesday, and so I'm not sure that we'll have the benefit of a full readout of that, but we're getting close. With positivity rates around 2% or lower, rates of transmission that have now come down meaningfully below 1, and they're sustained. This isn't just one good day. They're sustained. We're getting very close to being able to take that step. Please. Thank you for that. Yeah, I did not watch it, actually. No, our sons were playing in a championship soccer match, which unfortunately they lost in penalties, and that spilled into that between that and bad weather. But I've read some of the highlights, and if I got a chance this weekend, I'll look at a tape of it. But I did not see it. Well, I mean, I said this the other day about the Hatch Act, and I think it's less the case with the president than it is with diplomats or other members of government. And the president, I think, has a certain amount of leeway and deserves it. But I think we've got to be very careful crossing wires between government and politics. And that's something that I think we all have to be really careful of, and that includes all of us, me, the president, and everybody else. Anybody? Charlie, I got nothing new for you, but I'm going to talk to your friends here. I don't, but Dan Bryan, who has been following up with you, as you and I both know, will continue to follow up. But I look forward to having a few minutes with you before I leave, as I mentioned earlier. Thank you. Brent?
One last thing, I don't know if you saw the Pat story about the restaurant that you went to in Middletown.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
What was your reaction?
I haven't eaten indoors. I can't even remember when I ate indoors.
I know you haven't, but they said
Well, listen, that place is like another place that we've been to where they've got, I didn't even see if there's anyone eating inside, but they've got those big, they're not windows, they're doors. But that's a local reality. I don't show up with a tape measure trying to figure out whether or not the guy's got 50% of his walls open. If he doesn't, then he deserves whatever is coming his way, and if he does, I wish him the best. But we were outside and had a really good meal, I might add. So with that, I just want to say on behalf of Laylee, Carol, and Christine, on behalf, I know, of Rob and Nancy, Rose, Yvette, others here who live this every day, to the moms and dads, to the child care centers, to the leadership, thank you. Thank you for everything you do. And it's our hope that with today that we've found a significant amount of money that can accelerate what is already a great reality, but in this time of pandemic and economic pain, that we can much more quickly be able to get a lot more centers, as Christine alluded to, open, a lot more kids affordably in there and safely in these centers, and allowing the moms and dads the peace of mind that they need to be able to go about earning a living, providing for their families, and getting through this pandemic and this economic crisis together. So for all the above, especially the Edgar Early Learning Center, thanks so much for hosting us. God bless you all. Have a great weekend.